Hi, if you're in the market for an iron and you're not really sure what to go for, then it can be confusing because there are a lot of models to choose from. So what I've done is I've come up with 11 things to consider before buying an iron. Just before I start, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just give us a quick thumbs up. What I do is I talk about household appliances. I do specialise in vacuum cleaners and there's normally a bit of tech in there as well. Although this list is in no particular order, I suppose number one on the list is the most fundamental one to look at, and that's the type of iron to go for. Now I suppose the main irons, the most popular ones are these type of irons. They're pretty standard looking. This is really what I'm going to be concentrating on today. I suppose the other two types, first of all you've got the steam generator iron where you have a separate water tank, and then the last type would be something like this, a hand steamer. Each application has its own advantages and disadvantages. I suppose with steamers, these are very good for things like shirts or suits or blouses where you're hanging them up, but clearly you can't really use them on, I suppose, an ironing board as such. The steam generator irons are very good if you do a lot of ironing, and if you need a good supply of steam, then the steam generator irons can be very good. I'll be honest, as a company we don't tend to do as many of the steam gen irons now. I think the main reason is the big water tank that has to go somewhere, or it has to sit on your ironing board or just underneath. The cable leading up to the water tank is normally quite thick and chunky and it can be a bit awkward moving around. But as I say, if you do a lot of ironing, that's normally a good way to go. But really I suppose what I want to do is I want to concentrate today on the main irons because this is really a big chunk of the market. Number two on the list is the water capacity of the iron. Now I did mention a moment ago about the steam generator irons, and you can, if you've got a separate tank onto it, then you can get a lot of water in there, and that's really good if you're doing a lot of ironing. But I suppose for the main irons, all of the water is normally contained within the iron itself. Just to give you an idea, so on this particular iron, this Bosch one, the capacity on this is around 350 millilitres. Now that's pretty average. I'd recommend looking for one at least 300 or 350 millilitres. The main advantage of having more water stored within the iron is that you're not having to you don't have to keep filling it up. That can be quite frustrating when you're doing a big pile of ironing and you have to go and keep filling the water tank up here. So that's number two on the list, the water capacity. And that tends to lead quite nicely into number three on my list, and that's the weight of the iron. Now what you'll find, clearly, if you're going to have more water stored in the iron, then it's going to make it heavier. Now weight is quite a personal thing when it comes to an iron. Some people, myself included, I prefer an iron a little bit heavier. I just feel it's doing the work easier when you've got the ironing board flat and you're doing the ironing, you're not having to press down, I suppose, as much as if you've got a light iron, I do feel sometimes. But some people prefer a lighter iron. I suppose that can just be down to personal reasons. It could be, say if you've got arthritis in your hands and you struggle to lift things, then that could be the reason. Also, you could just find that you just prefer a lighter iron, and the way that you iron it seems to be easier. So that's number three on the list, the weight of the iron. Number four, do you go for corded or do you go for cordless? In the vacuum cleaner market, the majority of vacuum cleaners have now gone cordless. That's really the way the market's gone, and a big percentage of vacuum cleaners sold are cordless because they're a lot easier to work with. Clearly with a vacuum, you're moving around the room a lot more. With an iron, you're not. You're just normally in one place, unless you enjoy moving around with your iron, but that's up to you. But I suppose with the market for irons has very much stayed corded, and I suppose there are a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, when you're actually ironing, if you've got a corded iron, then you'll have a constant supply of electricity to help maintain the heat within the iron. As soon as you start using a cordless one, when you take it off the base, the second you remove it, the heat will start to reduce. Now, for some people, that doesn't really matter because it's still at the very high temperature. But I suppose it's just something to be aware of, that with a cordless one, although we do sell quite a few, although it's a small percentage of what we sell, people are still after the cordless, and to be fair, most of them do enjoy that, because what it does, when you're actually ironing with a cordless one, you don't have the cable behind you. So for some people that's a bonus as well. Number five, if you've decided to stay with a corded iron, then the next thing to consider is the cord length on the iron. Now this again can be really important. If you've got your ironing board set up and if you've got a main socket in a certain location, then you want to make sure that the length of the cable is long enough to work with. Don't forget, you're not just allowing the length between your main sockets and the ironing board, you need to allow plenty of movement length within the cable as well. Just to give you an idea, so on this morphy-richards-iron you're looking around 2.5 metre length compared to 3 metres on the Bosch. Now the 50 centimetre difference can make quite a difference, especially if it means it just allows a bit more extra movement when you're ironing. So that. Number 6 is the type of sole plate on the iron. Now what I've done is I've zoomed in here just to show you the different type of sole plates. Now I've got 4 brands here. So we've got a Bosch on the end here, we've got Morphy-Richards, a Tefal, and we've got a Beko. Now all of them offer their own designs of sole plates. I suppose the first thing to consider is the material of the sole plate. You will find there are quite a few different types. I suppose the first one is aluminium. It's good because it's quite lightweight, it does transfer heat quickly, but the only downside is it can scratch easily. Then you've got ceramic type of bases. It is a good quality non-stick base, it does distribute the steam well, and it can reach high temperatures without damaging your clothes quite well. Next type are the stainless steel bases. It is a durable material and it does distribute the heat evenly. It glides over the fabrics quite well as well. I suppose again the downside is you can scratch it quite easily, so that's something to be aware of. But the other good thing with stainless steel is that you can clean them quite easily. There are little sticks that you can get, normally from supermarkets or online, and then you can just normally rub it on the bottom, so if you get something stuck to it, then that could be a good one to go for. And then the last type is called palladium. It is a scratch resistant and non-stick material that glides smoothly over your clothes. You will find that different brands will call their bases different things. Bosch call this is something called ceranium glisse. I hope I've pronounced that right. But that's something else to consider. The type of material. So I'd always recommend, I know a lot of people are buying these products online, so you don't get the opportunity to have a look like this. But if you are going into a showroom or a supermarket or a store to go and have a look at an iron, have a look at the type of base. You'll find that they, as I say, they do vary a huge amount. Also, have a look at the end. The tip here, you can see at the top on the Morphy-Richards one, it says precision tip. That can be really good. So when you're ironing, I suppose things like shirts, if you wanted to get into a corner or around a collar, then having a sharp tip at the end here can be quite a benefit. Number 7, what's the wattage on the iron? Now this again can be really important. You do tend to find the higher end that you go, the higher the wattage. Now the main advantage, apart from getting a bit warmer, is that you can find it will get warmer quicker. So if you go for example, a 3000 watt iron compared to a 2000 watt iron, it will get warmer quicker, and also it will maintain the temperature better as well. So that's something else to have a look out for, the wattage on the iron. Number 8 is the maintenance of the iron. How easy are they to look after and to clean? Now, you find some irons will have things like self-clean options. That's normally where you put the steam up to full and then you take it over to a sink, press it, and what it will do is it will send the steam through the holes, forcing it out, and you have to do that over a sink or a towel because it can be quite a messy affair, especially if you've not cleaned it for a while, and that just really helps to keep it clean. You will find some irons as well have this kind of feature. So you've got this at the back here. This is called calc collector, and this is on the tefal one, and the idea is that you just remove that, so it's just collecting the calcium within there, and then you just go and empty that afterwards when you're cleaning it. So just have a look out for the cleaning options on the iron, because you can find if you keep it clean and you maintain it well, then there's a much better chance of the iron lasting longer. Number 9 on the list, have a look at the steam that the iron offers. And what I mean by that, you've got 2 figures I'm supposed to look at. First of all, you've got the continuous steam. Now that normally goes from 0 up to probably around 50-60 grams. Some of the better end models can go up to 100 grams. But just have a look at that figure, because you'll find that's the continuous steam that comes out of the iron. Then you've got the extra burst of steam. On a lot of irons, you'll find you'll have a button on the top here. So it'll look like that, and all that will do, that will just provide an extra burst of steam. You will have the spray of water as well, but I suppose I'm really on about the steam. And again, just have a look out for that figure, because that can vary a huge amount. On some of these irons you're looking around 120 grams, whereas on the Bosch one here you're looking around 200 grams as an extra burst of steam. And all that will do, that just means if you've got a really awkward crease in an item that you're ironing, then it can just make life a lot easier for you. I did mention earlier about hand steamers. Now they can be very good if you want to hang things up, and if you want to go and just try and get the creases out, things like shirts or blouses or suits. But don't forget, some of these irons will offer something called vertical steam as well. That's again a similar concept, where if you've got an item hung up, then you can just go and hold the iron up near to it. It's not designed to be ironed as such, it's just designed to use the steam from the iron to go onto the item. But it can also benefit, I suppose, things hung up, things like curtains, if you wanted to steam your curtains for example, but also your suits. So there are quite a lot of applications that you can use it for. Now we're almost there. Number 10 on my list is, has the iron got auto shut off? And what I mean by that, if the iron is left in a certain position, if it detects that it hasn't moved, then it could switch off after several minutes. Also, some irons, if it detects it's left in the down position, again it will switch off, but it's a much quicker switch off period than if it's upright like that. So that's something else to have a look out for. Personally, I think it's quite mandatory to have that feature, because the last thing you want to be doing is to have an accident or even cause a fire. And then number 11 on my list, does the iron have anti-drip on it? And what I mean by that is, when you go to fill the water tank, normally on the front, then does the lid shut and will it not drip? Now that's something, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, I've just filled the iron up, I don't want it to start dripping, do I? But some irons just have an open hole at the front here, and it doesn't, I suppose when you're ironing, when you're moving it around, then some of the water might start to drip out. That can be really frustrating. I've had that myself. So I'd always recommend having a look for an iron that has an anti-drip feature. I'll be honest, most irons do now. Most manufacturers have cottoned on that, just coming up with a little flap at the front to, I suppose, protect the water falling out once you put it in there, and then you'll find it just clicks into place. So I hope you found it useful, the 11 things to consider before buying an iron. I know there are lots of other things to look out for, but really what I wanted to try and do was just to cover the main 11 things that I consider that are important before we buy an iron. Of course, something else I haven't mentioned is the price of the iron. For a lot of people, this could be the deciding factor. Irons start from, I suppose, under £10. You can just get a very basic cheap iron, and you can pay hundreds of pounds for them, or hundreds of dollars if you're in America as well. But I suppose that's really down to you, depending on the budget you've got. I know I covered 11 things to think about. There are quite a lot more. I suppose there's lots of things to consider before you buy an iron. But really what I wanted to try and do was to cover the main 11 things. If there are anything else, so if there's something else that you think I've missed and I should put into that, then just pop it in the comments. Also, if you have got any questions on irons, we've got quite a few on display, I've got access to quite a few, then just pop it in the comments and I'll get back to you. All I'd normally say is please subscribe to my YouTube channel, just give us a quick thumbs up, click subscribe and leave any comments on the video, whether you enjoyed it, whether you didn't enjoy it. Anyway, thanks for watching.